Welcome, LA Progressive friends and family. I'm joined today by Andre Coleman, and Andre and I have known each other for many years, but we've never really had an opportunity to sit down and have an interview. And just until recently, we hadn't even had an opportunity to sit down and have a discussion. We run into each other at forums. So, Andre, I'm going to ask you to give us a little rundown on who you are and why you are being interviewed by the LA Progressive today.
Sure. Like you said, my name is Andre Coleman. Right now, I'm the managing editor at Pasadena Now. Uh, People may know me from the Pasadena Weekly, where I worked for more than 20 years as the deputy editor. I left after that was sold. Lifelong Altadena resident. Grew up in Pasadena schools, obviously. And we're going to talk today about my film, Milestone. And that'll probably lead to just some other discussions as well, just connected to the film and some of the topics in the film.
That's right. So, in case you missed that, because he kind of went through that quickly, Andre has a film out, and the name of the film is Milestone. And when we were talking the other day, he says, I've got a film on Amazon Prime, and we're encouraging it. I'm encouraging everyone to go to Amazon Prime right now. It's actually Prime Video, Amazon Prime Video, and you can rent or purchase Milestone. I purchased it, very reasonably priced, and watch it. And now we're going to talk a little bit about it, but I'm sure that Andre doesn't really want to spoil it for people. So we're not going to give the whole story, but give as much information about it as is given when you just go to Amazon Prime. They tell you a little bit about it. So why don't you tell us just what you want us to know, and then you and I can go into a further discussion.
I always say that this is what I use as the log line. A small town embroiled in civil rights unrest gets an opportunity that will change everything. But in order to fulfill that contract, they have to come together. I think that really sums it up.
Right. So in order for them to get what both sides want, and we haven't even characterized who these sides are. You give a hint because you say that this is about civil rights.
Right. So we're talking about the Black residents and the white residents of the community, the age-old conflict, America's original sin.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things that I really loved about this sort of documentary, docudrama, it's not really a documentary, but would it be characterized as a docudrama?
Docudrama is good. I hate the term mockumentary. So I say a fictional documentary, docudrama works also.
Cool. Well, I'm one of these people who actually, sadly, doesn't like to be entertained. I'd rather be informed and educated. So, Dick likes to watch a lot of murder mysteries. And I'm always wanting to watch documentaries. I'm hard-coded that way. I've been that way since I was a kid. For me, that makes me that scratches my itch.
Right.
So in many ways, this film does that. It does scratch my itch because it is absolutely educational, even though it's fictional, but it has so many elements of reality that it definitely, scratched that itch of mine to understand this seemingly eternal conflict that we've been in, certainly for 400 years here in the United States. Now,
testing 1, 2, 3. Am I good? They were already rioting when we got there. There were snipers on the roofs. The Brotherhood, for all intents and purposes, had shut the company down. The riots were going to get worse. You could just feel it.
I will be out in those streets, and I don't give a damn what that thing up there has to say about it.
What time period would you say that this is happening in?
Originally in the script, when it was written, it was going to take place immediately after World War II. That was the original idea. Because of some of the logistics of, sets and things like that, we just said, let's make it timeless and not put a time period on there. Let's not use any slang. Let's not use too much that would kind of time stamp it. So we avoided that. But if I had to say a time, I would say I look at it now when I say late 50s, mid 50s is probably when it takes place.
The interesting thing about this is, but for the clothing and the treatment of the film, this could almost be evergreen.
Yeah.
It could almost take place in any small town where there is both a Black and white community, in any small town in America. I would say at any point from 1930 to now.
Sharon, honestly, this is one of those things where what's amazing about, and this, when you get around to doing the creative, is sometimes it decides what it wants to be, no matter what you want it to be.
Yes.
And the time essence of this, because when I looked at it the first time when it was completed, I said what you just said. This could be any time from 1925 forward.
Yeah.
To even possibly the future.
Absolutely.
So it kind of took care of itself in that respect, because that was one of the things I was most concerned about. But it took care of itself in that respect. And from there, the story just really kept falling into place and telling itself. And it was just a matter of, sometimes I'd wake up from a dead sleep. Oh, we need to address this topic. And so we'd write a little small interview with somebody and film that. So the whole idea of filming this, I guess I am now. Starting this, I was not a filmmaker. But when I took this on and all the speaking parts in there, I learned really quickly, just like writing, just worry about the sentence in front of you and then connect that one to the next one. So I really went into this going, just worry about what we're shooting this weekend, not this big monstrosity of an hour and almost 90 minutes of a project, but just let's get good stuff this weekend. And then next weekend, let's get good stuff and good transitions and bridges that we can add, connective tissue that we could use. And that continuously worked out in our favor.
And it really came out that, so, the LA Progressive, we have published over 40,000 articles. And I've read or edited or even helped write or even have written a good portion of those. I'd say that Dick and I probably have written, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8% of those 40,000, but
Wow.
we definitely have read, edited, and published all of them. And we don't publish anything and just, put it up. We go through it and add the artwork. And that's really has been a learning experience for me. But I have to tell you that there's a point in your film where I really got an insight into something that it had not occurred to me before. And it happens at 1 hour and 9 minutes into the film. There's a speech that's given. And in this speech, the person is a Black man, he's speaking, and he's talking about what is motivating the two sides. How one is just wanting equality, and I don't want to give away too much, so I'm sort of gently kind of walking around this, but that was very enlightening to me. Because one of the things that we do here at the LA Progressive is we try to provide content that is relevant to every progressive, regardless of color. But I understand that there is a chasm, a racial chasm that exists in the progressive community. And part of that has to do with what drives us. And that the motivators for why people come together is spoken very clearly at 1 minute and 9 seconds, or 1 hour and 9 seconds.
And you know
So,
what? Running through my mental Rolodex, I just came to the exact part you were thinking about. I know exactly the moment you're thinking about.
yeah, that was really helpful to me because I've been trying to think, what can we do? It's, this movie is so much more relevant today, actually, than it was last Monday,
Yeah.
the day before the election.
You know what? As I woke up Wednesday with the gut punch, feeling like I had been kicked in the gut again, by the time I got to the shower, I thought, everything I say in my movie makes more sense this morning than it did last night,
Especially at 1 hour and 9 minutes in.
especially at 1 hour and 9 minutes.
And when I watched it, see, so I watched it after the election, and then when I listened to that speech, this light bulb went off. We're a country that is divided because we're trying to accomplish different things.
Right. Right. And that really sums up exactly where we are this evening.
That's right.
And I think even if you didn't give the timestamp and you said in the second half of the film, anybody who watches at this point would be able to identify that part. You know what really amazes me about this journey is how this all came together.
Tell
And
me about it.
I don't think I've told you this story, is that Thanksgiving 2022, I had two scripts I was writing. One was about the Montgomery bus boycott, and one was about an alien invasion. And I went downstairs to get a piece of pecan pie. And I was, for the first time in my life, trying to write two things like splitting screens, writing a paragraph here, jumping back to the other one, writing a paragraph there, jumping back, wherever the muse was taking me in the moment. I went downstairs, got a piece of pecan pie, came back up, had this great idea for the alien invasion stuff and started writing in it. Went back to read what I wrote and realized I wrote it in the wrong script. But then realized, wait a minute, this works really well here. And so I started moving the cursor and dropping stuff here, dropping stuff there, and walked away from it for 12 hours or so, came back and read the whole thing. And I went, oh my God, this is one piece, not two. And I just gave away a big part of it, but that's okay.
Yeah, well, when you go to Amazon, you kind of see.
You
that,
kind of see.
Yeah.
But that's when I understood more of what I was trying to say. That I wasn't trying to write about either of those things. I was trying to write about the differences that keep us apart.
Yeah.
And then it took that's really kind of the moment it was born, is when it kind of told me what it was supposed to be in that moment. And from there, it just wrote itself. Literally, it wrote itself.
So would you say that from the beginning, it was very clear to you that the differences that keep us apart are that we are motivated by two very fundamentally different things?
Yep. Completely. Because if you at the beginning of the film, and again, without giving spoilers, if you look at what each side wants over the same subject, but then as you get down the road and you realize why they can't just go, okay, we can do this, we can do that, then you begin to realize what ails us, what keeps us apart.
That's right.
And it's that 1 hour and 9 minutes, like you said. And then after a little bit of time, I don't know the exact minute, then we're not talking about that initial subject anymore.
That's right.
We expand out to not what we want, but what we need, is I think what happens next.
Yeah.
And then it kind of all, a picture becomes much clearer of why we're separate,
Hmm.
how easy it would be to come together, and how hard it is to come together. I think
Yeah.
it'd be very easy for us to come together, but I still think it's very hard for us to come together.
Yeah. Well, I think it makes it easier to come together once it's clear that when we're not fighting, we're not having the same argument. We're not fighting for the same thing. And
Right.
I've come to believe that the so-called founding fathers had no interest in democracy.
Oh no.
And so, we're given this line about the genius of the founding fathers and the writing of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and these enlightened leaders. But in fact, it seems to me that it was just a marketing ploy so that they could get the yoke off their backs of England. This wasn't really the American Revolution. It was an American, I wouldn't call it a revolution. It was basically the wealthy here wanting to replace the wealthy of England.
It
They didn't
was,
actually want democracy.
yeah, it was, let us have our own country so we can do to other people what you've been doing to us.
Exactly. It was an insurrection.
Right. We love your system, but we
Mhm.
don't like your system when it's aimed at us. But it's fine
Yes.
for us to now take your system that we've learned from you and aim it at these other people and women.
Yes.
And then that was completely fine. And in both cases, it was both sides, England and the founding fathers, said it's a God given right that allows us to do this.
And so we're all taught that the founding fathers and these wonderful documents established a foundation that created this fabulous democracy. And when people aren't getting out of this country what they feel they're entitled to, they're upset.
Right.
But it was never designed that way in the first place.
No, not at all. I mean, even when the founding fathers were fighting for their own freedoms, it was for their freedoms.
Yeah, which was
It was
7% of the population.
exactly,
7%
exactly.
could vote.
And there's a certain hypocrisy that goes along with it.
Oh, yeah.
When you look at what they had just gone through, and then you fight for that freedom, and you turn around and you enslave another person,
Yeah.
enslave a race of people, genocides, in order to get that freedom. It goes beyond hypocrisy.
Yeah.
And it's despicable on its face. So yes, it was just kind of a transfer of wealth and power, so to speak.
Yes. So the film, although the film doesn't go back that far, but I think that what the film uh, puts before us is the byproducts or the products of what happened 250 years ago and how we are all still blinded by it and now pointing fingers and blaming each other.
Even in the face of it's like if I said to you, I'll give you $1 million if you can show up for work on time tomorrow. You'd be early. There's no way anybody listening to us would not be on time or early or in the long line saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. But even in the light of that, somebody said, I'll give you $1 million if you can just bring these people together. You'd never be able to get the money.
No.
You would never collect. And people might pretend just to get the money, but it would fall apart, so quickly. Our bonds are so just tenuous. Our rights are so tenuous. And especially when we're in a crisis. I mean, all it took was, if you remember 9/11 and COVID, our Asian neighbors,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
during COVID. 9/11, everybody who believed in a religion that didn't, outside of Christianity, persecution and in danger. I mean, so quickly we get to a place where we go on the attack, or we don't trust, or
yeah,
we're willing to yank rights away,
yeah. But
which
I
is
do have hope.
which is so sad. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It is, I have hope. I have hope. And the reason that I have hope, well, my husband Dick is white.
Hmm.
So he's white, I'm black. Obviously, he's a man, I'm a woman. He's from the Midwest, I'm from the Bronx. He's from two educated parents. Both of his parents had PhDs. Neither of my parents went to college. I mean, almost everything. It's the opposite. But we've forged this relationship and learned a lot along the way, that we've gotten to a place where we have a common understanding of the racial problems in this country.
Right. Right.
So I think that a lot of the problems with coming together has to do with a basic misunderstanding and lack of
Hmm.
knowledge, and not a deep analysis.
Right.
We certainly don't receive that in our educational systems.
And if there's a willingness to learn to learn from each other,
Yeah.
half the battle is over. But when you talk about our educational systems, and I heard you say that right as I begin to talk over you, so I'm sorry. I did not get strong history in school growing up. I mean, as far as just Black history alone, I got, during Black history, you only got it during Black History Month, and then you got a month about Martin Luther King.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing about Malcolm X, nothing about the Black Panthers.
Yeah.
You'd get Abe Lincoln freed the slaves, but even that, you don't get the whole truth that the states that stayed in conflict, I'm sorry, the southern states that fought alongside the Union, slaves weren't freed. You don't get that part of it. So you don't get this clear picture. You don't even get this clear picture of that a large part of the conflict was about states' rights, which is where we are now on women's reproductive rights.
Mm-hmm.
There's the states' rights argument. So our educational system, A, yes, it has failed us that way. But B, now even that small amount of history is under fire because of the movement now to yank studies out of colleges and high schools that would teach us about different cultures. DeSantis has pushed it. Sarah Huckabee Sanders has pushed that, which is really scary.
Yeah, it is.
It's
And
really scary. But I do have hope. And I said all that, and now I say this, which it may confuse your viewers and listeners, but I do have hope. Because I think that this next generation coming along, which is largely, generation hashtag, for lack of a better term, I do have hope that there will be more tolerance in that generation because they are more exposed to each other's viewpoints.
yes, yes.
And they've had more dialogue at a younger age than we have on serious issues.
So with you being a media person and with me being a media person, what I think we both understand is that the fourth estate is crucial. It's essential to having common information that we are that we use to formulate our ideologies, our political decisions. If
Mhm.
we have these silos of information, which you can still do with the internet, you can still have
Right.
silos of information, but I'm hoping that the next generation is less apt to rely on a single source. There are so many people that just watch Fox. I wrote an article, and I was looking at the share of the American population that watches Fox, and it is almost larger than the combined CNN and MSNBC audience combined.
Wow. Well, this is why I think LA Progressive is so important,
Yes, and
because
that's right.
there has to be media outlets that give fair and accurate reporting, but what you don't get on Fox and what you don't get on CNN is what's happening on the block next to you. And you don't get what's happening at your city council there. You don't get your neighbor's point of view there. Now, your neighbor, when you walk outside to start your car, may give you their point of view based on that stuff. But Pasadena Now, uh, LA Progressive, publications like ours, they remain important. And I hope that this next generation picks up that mantle and says, okay, I was raised knowing how to use a computer. You and I had to learn that, you know what I mean, later in life. This next generation, like my daughter, who's 16 now, she's known how to use a computer since she was 5.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that that generation picks up the mantle and says, you know what, people must be informed. And let's face it, if the First Amendment falls, America falls. We have no democracy, no republic. That's why it's the First Amendment. That's why it's first. If we lose the freedom of expression, doesn't matter who's president, doesn't matter what party it is, doesn't matter what you believe, what you pray to, it's over. We lose everything shortly thereafter, because you cannot then express your grievances or even your appreciation of what's going on in this country, without who knows what the consequences would be. So I agree with you there. We need hubs of information, but younger people have to get involved in the reporting, in that clarion call to the world to say this is what's going on and how we feel.
So another one of the many benefits of watching this film is that you tackle an idea that I've always had, which is that progressives or well-meaning people of all stripes, we're never going to be able to achieve what we need to achieve until we come together, which is the basic thesis of this film.
Right. 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 It's so many times we get caught up in our arguments over our methodology or what the top cause is, that we're trapped in the minutia of the moment, and the moment is going by. And we see that here.
That's
Where
right.
the moment is going by as they argue over the minutia of how to proceed. And it's like, look, nobody's necessarily wrong. Nobody's necessarily right. But the arguments just aren't helping. You know what I mean? We have to sometimes just have to grab that moment and go, let's grab the moment and figure it out as we go.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to talk about here. So I'm encouraging LA Progressive, please go to Amazon Prime Video and take a look at Milestone, who is directed by, produced by
And written by. Yes.
And written by Andre Coleman.
Yes.
Andre, is it Andre Philip?
I kind of do the filmmaking stuff with my middle name in there. Andre Philip Coleman. Also, too, if you don't mind me saying, trying to raise money for the marketing part now.
Awesome. Okay.
All the advertising. So I do have a GoFundMe that kicked in 3 days ago.
So what we'll do is we'll put a link to the GoFundMe.
Thank you.
And a link to anything else you want. And if we could put in like a little 2-minute clip of the film in this.
Sure.
That would be great.
Well, thank you so much for watching the movie. This has been great. And it's good to finally have a conversation. We've known each other for so long and never really had a conversation. Now we've had 3 or 4 in 3 or 4 days, which has been awesome. So
I'm looking forward to, creating this and putting it out. I hope it provides some kind of support to what you're trying to do, because the message is just so relevant, particularly after last Tuesday's outcome of the Tuesday election. So
thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me, and it'll take me a couple of days and I will get this to you. So
Okay.
long, Andre. All righty.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Talk soon. Bye.
Thank you for sticking around. If you like the LA Progressive content and the discussions we have here, please consider clicking the subscribe button below and also give us a thumbs up. That helps to grow our audience by feeding the algorithm, which helps to get this content in front of more eyes. Thanks for stopping by. We really appreciate your support.